Alright, we got a different kind of video for you today. Today we're going to be looking at the Gundam card game, Gundam Assemble set. I got the first one here, ST1A, which would be the first three figures here. And so, really I shouldn't have to explain this, because if you don't know what this is, then you don't need to watch this video. But for the new Gundam card game, there are some new plastic figures that are going to be for another upcoming game called Gundam Assemble, and there's some crossover. So this first product's been released already in the United States with the first three figures here, and I know there's going to be some people getting into this that aren't as familiar with building these figures or painting them, and so I'll go through one today here, make a quick, easy guide, show you how easy it can be to build and paint these figures, and we'll see how this video turns out on that. Hopefully it turns out all right. So let's get into this and take a look at what we got in here. Yeah, there's only about half a dozen pieces each here, so nothing too complicated that you need the directions for. Our first step is going to be cutting these pieces out of this plastic here. So you're going to need a pair of clippers, which are different than scissors. Scissors cut across each other slightly and cut that way with like two cutting edges. And clippers cut together and hit the same point. And so we're going to be using clippers. I have this pair is a pair I use. This is a Citadel brand, Games Workshop brand. You can get cheaper pairs for about $8 or more expensive pairs. God Hand is the best brand if you get serious into modeling, but you're not going to need too much here. If you don't have clippers, you can use like some of the toenail clippers that are kind of set up like that, or if you have wire clippers in your toolbox, you can use a pair of wire cutters. You just need something small enough to get in there and cut out these edges. So be careful you don't cut anything you didn't intend to, and you're going to want to leave a little bit there. We can trim it down easier. It's better to leave a little bit of plastic there than cut too much and cut into your model. So you just take the flat side of your clippers, you line it up there with where you want to be cutting, just a little bit off of the piece. Make your cuts. Cut out your pieces. Alright, now that we've got our pieces cut out from the sprue, we're going to file them down and trim them up. I have a glass file that I use from the Razor brand. I really like this. This is from Gundam model building. They use these glass files. In Warhammer, typically it's the metal files. That you can get little metal files, or you can use nail files. These are like for filing your nails. These work well for this kind of plastic and smoothing this out as well. So I'm just going to take each one of our pieces here and look for the little tiny marks from where we cut out. I don't know if our camera is going to be good enough. Yeah, you can see there on the end there's a little bit of a mark there, and that's fine. We left a little bit of plastic there intentionally. It's better to leave the plastic there and sand it down than to cut into it. So just smooth that out there with our file, and then we have a nice crisp edge there that we're looking for. And so you just go around the piece. The other thing you can find is mold lines from where the two pieces of the mold was pressed together to form this piece. There'll sometimes be a line down the edge of a piece or something like that, which you can just quickly and easily file off. The other tool that's useful for this is a scraper. This is a Citadel brand again on this one, but it's just a piece of metal, and you can use the back of a knife or something else there, and that's useful here. So we just file down our edges here, get those mold lines, get the piece just perfectly cleaned up. So either by sanding or scraping or both, depending on the piece, whichever you find easier. Get the piece nice and cleaned up here before we move on to painting. So go ahead and clean up all of your pieces, and then we'll assemble the robot here and move on to that step. All right, I've got all these pieces sanded down, filed nicely, so the marks and some of these mold lines are all smoothed out. Now we're going to assemble these pieces here. Now these directions say you can do it without glue, which is probably true, but since we're going to be using these as figurines, they're not going to be moving or anything like that, we're going to use glue, or at least I am, and I would recommend you as well. You don't want to be losing pieces. So this is plastic glue. If you're not used to plastic glue, it can be a little intimidating, but it's really not that difficult to use, and once you're used to it, it's really easier to use than super glue. Super glue seems really easy to use. You're probably familiar with it, but it's also super easy to glue your fingers together, and it's just annoying. And really, we can just skip the whole super glue thing, and I would recommend plastic glue. This is the right kind of plastic for it. All right, so I'm going to put our head piece together here. We've got these pieces trimmed up. I've got a little crown to go on the head here. Slot that in there. That fits nicely. So I'm just going to put a little drop of this glue here. I've got Citadel brand glue here. But any brand of plastic glue will work there. If you got a bigger piece, you want to put it on both surfaces, but this is a really tiny piece here. We're just going to slot this little head piece in here. The advantage of plastic glue is that you can then adjust it and clean it up. I've got a cloth here, or a paper towel that I'm going to wipe it on. And you want to use the blue paper towels. These blue paper towels rather than the white paper towels when you're dealing with plastic glue. The white paper towels kind of melt with the plastic glue. It's one of the just quirks of them. But we got that in there. And like I said, you can still adjust it for a minute or two here as the plastic glue is setting, but then it'll set permanently and it'll just be like one piece of plastic and it'll never break off there. And that's really what you want. Just that permanent bond. So make sure that piece is aligned correctly, but you're not gonna glue your fingers in there like you would on super glue. It's really just better to work with. All right, then we're gonna take this headpiece. I got the directions here. There's nothing too complicated though. Headpiece slots into this his back piece, which again probably doesn't need any glue on this piece, but I've got the glue here, so we'll just touch it slightly with some glue here before we slot this in here. Slot it in there all the way. Nice. All right, and then according to our directions here, we'll then put it onto the body here. Got some pegs here. Yeah, lines up real nice. So we're just gonna touch these surfaces with some plastic glue, so we don't have to ever worry about it coming off. Don't need much plastic glue at all. Just as long as there's any on there, you'll be fine. Push these together nicely, and then we'll clean up any that's squeezed out on the edges here. That's all there is to plastic glue. It's so easy to use, and this is just permanently together now. So make sure it's aligned correctly, but it's really easy to use. So we'll put on this front leg here. We got a nice big surface here. Put on some glue. Slot the piece in. That's good. All right, we got the other arm here. Another socket there. Yeah, these kind of things should be good without the glue. I see what they're going for here, but you know, you want this thing to be solid for years. So our figures together here, squeeze that together as far as it goes, make sure it's lined up, make sure our other pieces are still lined up here. And this base as well. I forgot to do this base. This just works the same way. I'm just gonna flip this out of here. And then we're going to smooth this out. Now, when you scrape this, it's going to kind of ruin your surface that you have here, but we're going to paint it anyways, so don't worry about the surface so much. You just want it to be smooth. Kind of a burr on the bottom there. Clean that up too. This kind of plastic is a bit of a mess here scraping, but you can smooth it out really nicely. Just a little bit of pressure. Not too much, not too little. So we got this all smoothed out here nicely. Some burrs here. All right. So we've got a base here, and our guy has a little peg here, much like a Warhammer figure. It's a circle. And then in this case, we'll put the glue on the bottom of his feet here. On both feet. In this case, I think he stands flat-footed. And we'll put this here. Must be way over here like this. So his foot reaches the ground. Yeah, without glue, his other foot would never be solid there. So get this seated correctly here. And then we just have to leave it for a couple seconds, and this will be solid as a rock here. And that's our figure completed. And we could, of course, leave it there, but we're going to take it further here. We're going to paint it. Painting's not that difficult if you're not used to it. Don't worry about it. So we're going to put spray paint on here first. We're going to use Citadel spray paint because that's what I have. I'll show you that. All right, this is Citadel spray paint, which is an overpriced version of regular spray paint. It is different in that it's more powdery. It's meant to really get into the fine surfaces and leave a very fine coat. If you had too thick of a paint here, it would smooth out all of your detail. You'd lose a lot of detail. So get a spray paint that's meant for this and meant to be a base on there. But there are other brands that are cheaper than Citadel. But this is, the Warhammer brand and really meant for this. And I have a Warhammer store close to my house, so I tend to use their paints and stuff like that. So I like to use these gloves. If you don't have a glove, you just hold a plastic bag on your hand or something, because we're only doing like a couple models here. If you're doing it more serious, you want to get like a stick. You can get like elastic bands and like hold this base onto a stick, and then just spray paint the stick. But the gloves works pretty well. And then you just spray paint your glove a bit and throw it away when you're done. No big deal. So we're gonna shake up our paint and hold it about 1.5 feet away, not too far that you're not getting too much, but definitely not too close, or you're going to get runs or anything like that. And just keep it moving, keep everything moving. Nice circle. I won't take the camera outside, but I'll give you like the real-time thing. It'll just be like okay, we're done. And then you just kind of set it down for like 5 or 10 minutes, and then it'll be dry. So I'm going to step outside and go do this, and then we'll be back here. All right, and we're back here. So got this painted out black, so he's not going to show up very well right here, but just a quick spray paint. Real easy, and then we got this nice primer coat on here. And now we're going to paint it. So let's talk about painting. So I'm going to use a dry brushing technique here. I think that'll work well with these robots. So I got an old brush here. I don't spend a lot of money on brushes. I get these from Walmart. It's like $5 for this whole pack of a whole bunch of brushes, and just get a bunch of cheap brushes and find the one that's like the size you're looking for. That's all I do for brushes. Um, for paints, I'm going to use Citadel paints, the Warhammer paints, because that's what I have. This one is Corax white base paint, but that doesn't matter so much, just any white paint you got for this. But this is a water-based paint, which will work, I think, pretty well for this. This is what we're looking for. And then I have a cup of water here to help me work, but I'll be keeping the brush pretty dry. So I got this paint shook up here. I should be ready to go. Crack it open here. See if we're looking good. Good enough. All right. So I have a piece of plastic here. This is just some packaging for something else. And I like that kind of plastic to work on. Just gonna dump some paint with my brush onto there. So I have a gob of paint there. I'm gonna take most of the paint off the brush in that same spot on the plastic. And I'll start hitting this this guy here. I can hit the base real quick and just see how my brush, I got too much paint on the brush still. Let's hit my paper towel real quick here. Take off some of that paint. Yeah, that's more what I'm looking for there. Just a most coverage. So we're gonna cover about 95% of this in white paint. But if it doesn't catch some other places, then that's fine too. Because that's just shadow and damage and everything else. So just make your way around here. I'm putting a lot of paint on here at the moment. I think that'll be fine. Grab a bit more off my plastic here. We'll go back and get the other colors later. And it's not a highly detailed paint job, you know. I'm not a strong painter, and this isn't what I do with all of my time. Uh, it's just not as rewarding for me to spend 100 hours on a figure or more. So all my paint styles are just 10-15 minutes per figure. And that's what I'm planning on carrying over to the Gundam minifigures that I do here. It's not going to be any epic projects there. It's just going to be painting up this figure. So see this progress I'm making here. I'm just covering most of it in white paint, you know. Not a lot of paint on the brush. And don't know if I even need to do this shield, but I'll pretty much hit everything just to keep it easy. I'll do everything in white and then kind of go back. Tempted to do a contrast then, but I don't think that'll work very well here. So we'll just do most things in white and then go back and get some color on there. See how that works. It's all a bit of an experiment here. Oh, I don't need to do this gun very much. I'll just hit it a little bit and bring out some of the detail here. The gun is black. So just trying to keep a little bit of paint on the brush, not too much. But that's mainly the trick. Let me keep this in frame here. It's mainly the trick here is to just control how much paint is on your brush and try and get like an even coverage everywhere here. Really bring out the detail already, just hitting it with this dry brush in some of these places, like his face here. Just trying to get even coverage here. All the way at his arm here, underneath. It's another thing, don't miss anything. But when you're going underneath, you can go a little lighter even, and it looks good for like shadows and stuff. So we're nearing our finish here of the white already. This is how quick the painting is. You can take your time and go slower, you know, of course, it's whatever you want to get out of it. But it's kind of diminishing returns for me. Make them twice as happy to spend twice as long on it. Okay, so that's about done here. You saw how quick that was. Didn't even cut here. Take it out of frame a lot there, showing you. But now we got a mostly white figure there. See if there's any spots I missed here. Try to get in here on his abdomen. A little bit more paint. Try and get even coverage everywhere here. On the side, armpit. Back here, underneath this other arm. A little more paint. Helps if you have good lighting. If you get into the hobby, it's, you know, becomes more important. But here we're just doing a couple figures. And a real quick job at that. And this is already looking, I'm pretty happy with that already. All right, so that's our figure painted white. Just that easy. Probably gonna come back to white anyway, so at the end to touch up. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. I'm gonna rinse off my brush here in my water, so I don't carry too much white over. And start doing some of these panels. I think we'll do the blue next here on his chest. Rinse off my brush here. Dry it off. And take a look at this blue paint. Shake this up here. And we'll take another look at this while we do. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. Just that easy. I haven't used some of these paints in a while here. This is another Citadel paint. This is Calidor Sky base paint in blue. And we'll see how this is looking. That's already pretty good. It's just these whites that are really the problematic one. A little dry here. Alright. So again, I'm going to take a mostly dry brush and just kind of scoop out some of this paint and put it here on my plastic and then take off most of it. Even wipe it on my paper towel here to take off even more. And don't forget to check your reference material, see what he looks like. So I want to get his upper body, then I'll come back and get some yellow and red in there. So I'm just gonna, again, this is pretty bright blue. I should have started with this even. So just gonna try to get in here, get some color on here. Go back and touch it up later. Clean it up. What color is this backpack supposed to be? Black. There's not a whole lot of blue on here. Let's try and get his shoulders. Maybe wanted a smaller brush would have been better here, maybe. So I'll try and put a little tip on my brush here. I definitely want a smaller brush. I got a smaller brush. I got my brush, some brushes right here. I grab a smaller brush here You can get really tiny brushes if you need them for professional work there as you get better at this hobby. But I'm not that good to need those. I just keep these cheap brushes and I'm happy with those. Oh, this is much better. Perfect size here. Let's go in and get these shoulders here. I'll just keep as many points of contact as I can. See, I got like 5 different fingers on this figure here. Not that steady-handed. But I can get this detail pretty good here. A little bit more paint. There's the other side here. Looking good. That middle part I think is yellow. Oh, it's blue all the way to the middle here. So I'll get a little more blue on this middle here. Not too much paint there. And that's all the blue. Yeah, clean it up a bit here, make it look pretty good. There's not much else blue. Kind of scuffed there and got some out of place blue, but overall, you see, you just kind of do the same thing there. Easy peasy. So, I guess we'll go yellow next here. Maybe I want red. Hit yellow last. We'll do some red here with the small brush again. Just rinse it off, dry it off. And take a look at the red. I pulled out corn red. That's a nice bright base paint here. All right. And these colors stay pretty mixed, yeah. So let's take a bit of this paint, put it on our plastic again here. I think I'll use my small brush again. Take most of it off on my paper towel here. And I'll start to do here. See, these sides are supposed to be red. I just painted them blue. Looks pretty good. Try and keep this in frame at least. Let's just grab a model. Alright, we got some reference material here. This will help. Master grade RX-78. Red all the way around there. So I'll go back to my red paint here. And touch this up. Cover up that blue stuff I just put down. The skirt is white with these red or yellow panels on it. Alright, so this isn't going to be the most exciting part of this video, although it's probably the most instructive to most of you. So keep going here a little bit. You can get an idea of the results you can get with a minimum amount of time. I'm not going to cut away for hours of work and then come back and tell you how easy it was. Just get in here. If you can't even see the spot, then it doesn't even matter too much. Okay. So that's most of the red. His feet are red. Got like red just around the foot. We'll clean up our base later. So don't worry about getting onto the base. Let's try and get a nice line around here. It's looking pretty good. Try and keep this in frame for you. Nice, nice, nice. Do the other foot now. And we could touch it up later if we need to, but it really doesn't matter too much. Once it's on the table, it looks pretty good no matter what. You can't see your tiny mistakes. All right, that's that red. And then the shield. Some more paint. Paint most of the shield up red here. I think, yeah, white around the rim there. If we can. So let's go around the shield. Quite a bit of paint thickness here. Good coverage. Keep it in frame here. So you just gonna keep lots of contact with the model. Both hands are touching the model. Only kind of moving my fingers a little bit. Get some more paint on the brush. Check out our color scheme. Yeah. I'm going to do this little star in yellow here in a second, but go right up to it. So don't leave any white there. A little bit more paint. Up here. Some of the detail work here. Shield to be one of the most visible parts here, so get this looking nice. Yep. You know, if there's little streaks of white and stuff like that showing through, or black, or whatever, it ends up just looking like damage and stuff. It's all good. Doesn't need to be perfect. Unless that's look, it's almost like a look you're going for, if that's what you're going for. Okay. So I think that's all the red. What color's his face here? Some little bits of red maybe on his face. If I can get in there maybe. I think we'll just leave it like that. So looking pretty good. I'll show his shield here. Pretty good. And his feet. It starts coming together pretty easily here. Not a long process. I'm gonna rinse off my brush here to change color. The yellow one here. All right, and then yellow. I've got. Didn't have a lot of yellow paints, but I had Flash Gets Yellow as a layer paint from Citadel as well here. So see how this works. Close up these other paints so they don't dry out. Kind of feel this coming together here. All right. All right. Some yellow paint. And we just need a tiny bit. I don't even think I'm going to bother putting it onto my palette here. I'll just touch the yellow. Well, I'll move most of this onto my palette here. I just have a little bit in there. And start to bring out this line here. Just gonna scrape across the top of it. Get some color on there. Let the 3D part of it do the work. So you don't have to freehand it on there. Just have to hit the raised parts. You know, kind of outside of frame. But that came on there pretty nice. So I won't mess with it too much more. Just leave it like that. That's one thing I learned. If it's looking pretty good, just kind of leave it. Alright, so now I want to try and hit these panels and stuff in yellow. And again, the same thing, just kind of let the model do the work for you by being 3D. And just hit it at the right angle, and you hit those panels. That looks pretty good. Reload my brush, hit the back ones. Yellow. Yellow. Just hit the right angle and you're good there. Alright, and then I need these vents on the front, which should be a little trickier. A little more paint on here. Try and get in here. Almost need an even smaller brush for here. See if I can get in here nice. The angle here, that's not bad. Try and hit this other one. Tiny little movements here. Not bad, not bad. Alright, we got our yellow one here. That's looking pretty good, isn't it? Not on out of focus camera, but not really set up for this. But if you're liking this video, I don't know. I don't think I'm like your best resource for this. There's gonna be somebody that's so good at painting and knows all the tricks and stuff that would be even better for this. But I felt I was well positioned here as already a YouTuber and having this product. All right, do we want any more color on here? Let's look again. I did kind of miss that red part on his crotch there. I got some red paint still here. I'm gonna hit that part there. Oof. Didn't look too much paint on my brush here. That doesn't look very good. Anything else I want to color in? I might try and get some black. Well, I might just darken it with some oil here. Get the gun blacker. It's kind of nice to touch it with the white to bring out some of the detail. But kind of want it to still be black and not white. See if I can bring out this little yellow thing on the front here. Barely. Might have to do. So, getting pretty close to finished here. Alright. So, yeah, we are going to do a light oil and touch up the white here a bit first, and that'll be wrapping up our painting. This white paint's thick. Get it going. I just need a little bit of it though. All right, and most of that will take off. So we're gonna touch up his shoulders a bit here. This doesn't look very good because it's a different brush. Touch up this panel on the back here that I got some paint on. Really, I should have used the same brush. Yeah, try to use the same brush if you're going back. Too much paint on here. Let's scrape some of this off. That's pretty good. All right. Any other touch-ups? Touch, touch, touch. Touch a bit more paint here. It's hard to cover up other paint with the white. That's pretty good. Yeah, like I said, I don't want to mess with it too much. Just start making it worse. See, a little bit of blue on his head here. I'm gonna cover up. Looking good. Okay. All right, that's looking good. All right, so we've got the base to do. That might be it. I'll put a finish on it. Okay, let me grab some stuff to do the base, and we'll do that. All right, before we do our base, I'll do our base last because it cleans up a lot. As you see there, we can just make a mess of it until then. We're gonna put some oil on there, also known as an ink or a shade. Different companies have different terms for it. So this is a shade by Citadel called Null Oil, which is just a black pigment inside of like a water-based, really like viscous, and it's designed to kind of go into the crevices and such. And we're gonna try and really just apply that everywhere on this entire model, kind of darken it down a bit. So let's put some of that on our brush. We'll put quite a bit on here, I think, by the end of it. So yeah, I'll start applying it here. Yeah, it's gonna go on pretty thick here. Yeah, so I'll just use the same brush here. And we're just gonna kind of apply that everywhere and let it seep in to the crevices especially, and darken those areas. Really want it to just sit on there. Yeah, I think that's what I'll do here is I'll put a ton of it on here. Just kind of sit in there. If it's too much in pools, it'll dry weird and leave kind of a circular pool kind of shape. So you don't actually want it to pool, but maybe just short of pooling on here is what I'm going for. So completely cover everything, and then like kind of thick where it should be. Let me keep it in frame here. Let's see how I'm kind of applying that. I'm stuck with my small brush here. I'll just get all up here. Even a couple of coats of this all over where we painted, and anywhere we didn't, to help bring it all together there. And kind of hide some of your mistakes with this stuff too. Just darken it down. I was gonna see if this is darkening enough for our blacks, but I don't think it is now that I'm seeing this. So we might need something else for our blacks here. Or I might just put several coats of this on there. So tons of this stuff going on here. Just dipping my brush and putting it on here. Keep it in frame. Put the brush. Put this stuff on here. Just covering the entire thing with this stuff. Some products, Army Painter makes what they call dips, where it's like a big container and you like dip your model in it. I think that would actually be pretty good for this, where I'm trying to put tons of this stuff on here. But just keep going on here until you're getting it all on here. No big pools. Like I said, it'll just dry weird and it'll leave kind of a weird residue kind of looking thing. But just short of pooling is how you want it. Covering everything and almost pooling in the crevices. Just about done here. More and more of this stuff on here. In the front of the shield. It's looking good. Alright. It's pretty much good everywhere. Even it out. I might come back and put more of it on his backpack because his backpack's pretty light right now. And that's pretty good. I think I got about enough null oil on here now. Yeah, I'm not gonna make it look better if I keep messing with it too much. Alright, so that's that all oiled up. So we'll let that sit a couple minutes here and then put on our base. Alright, my null oil has dried. You see the final look here, perhaps. You can see if we can see on the shoulder here, you can see what I was talking about with the puddles there. If we can get the focus here, you might be able to see on that shoulder right there. That's the kind of puddle I was trying to avoid. Too much null oil, and it kind of dries like that. But that's all right though. Not a huge deal. Like I said, it all just kind of looks like damage and stuff, and dirt and everything else on them. So that's what we're going for. So now we're gonna add a base. I'm gonna add in. I have some Citadel basing material. So it comes like their paints, but instead of being a paint, it's like thick goop that will dry like earth. And in this case, this is technical type paint, and it's Martian iron earth is what this is. So we shouldn't need to shake this. We'll just check how it is. Not too bad. All right. And for this, instead of using a paintbrush, I have a tool here. This is just like a piece of plastic tool that they sell at Games Workshop there. It's already kind of covered in this stuff because I've used it on other projects. So I'm going to stir this up a bit here, what I got in here, get it out here. Not too much on my stick. It's kind of like a shovel here. I'm going to try and shovel out some without making too much of a mess. All right, we'll try this. All right, so we're going to try and kind of dab this on here. And it doesn't need to be too thick, but we're just going to go for like 100% coverage there of the base there. And you can go kind of thin around the feet. You're trying not to get any on the feet, of course. And for that reason, when we put the feet on there, some people leave it kind of offset as you're putting it on the peg, but I put it on there nice and solid with the glue on both feet, and that's fine too. All right. In effort to not make this video too long, I am probably going to cut here. But as you see, I just kind of scoop some here and dab it on here, smear it around a bit, and try and get complete coverage here of this. I'll probably switch to the other side of my stick as I get in close to those feet there, so I don't get any on the feet. So we'll come back here in a second as I'm finished there. All right, now this ground paint is gonna have to dry overnight, so we'll have to come back tomorrow and finish this. But this is how it's looking here now. I got that applied there. Took just 5 or 6 minutes there, not too long. Uh, Most of that time was getting it in near the feet there. That was the toughest part. Just getting the paint on the base there isn't too bad at all. But you see, it doesn't have to be perfect. Nothing on here does. I don't like how the backpack is white there. I might fix that a bit. But aside from that, he's looking pretty good. Almost done here. Also mentioned, don't worry about getting anything on your rim here. We'll clean that up tomorrow as one of our last steps after this is dried. So we'll come back here and take a look at how this dried out here tomorrow. Alright, we're back today. We're going to finish up this Gundam here. The texture paint on the base has dried, but as you can see, I forgot how this would crack like this. It revealed the fact that I had extra paint on the base there. I should have painted the base black or red before I did this kind of texture paint, which otherwise looks pretty good. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to add some dry brush over top of it and kind of add on some brown on top of the red there and fix it that way. Another way I could do it would be to add some more red, do another layer of the crackle paint, fix it that way maybe, but I think this is a good way to fix it. Just need a little bit of this paint here. This is Citadel Morghast Bone. So again, I'm just going to move most of it to this piece of plastic here. And then even after that, wipe most of it off onto this paper towel here. So I just have like barely any on the brush here. Even more off of the brush. Alright, so just barely any paint on the brush, and then just kind of sweep over. Try to catch the raised up parts. Gotta be careful with it at this point, otherwise it'll tear up your texture. That's working alright. Put a little more paint on my brush. Take most of it off. Get it on the other side here. And just kind of hit those angles. And where it's raised up, catch your brush. Not a lot of paint on the brush. So I'm just going to sweep it across here. Try to get an even coverage. And that's what we're left with there. So it covers up my mistake in the cracks. Might even try to catch some more on the black side there to even it out. You know, like I've been saying, at a certain point you're just not making it better. I don't know if it was a fail or not, but not too bad. I think the 3D texture in particular looks pretty good. All right, moving on here. Rinse off the brush. did want to add some black there to the backpack and the gun. I got a little carried away with the white, and so I wanted to darken that backpack and the gun a bit. And so I have a contrast paint here, which might work well here. Contrast paints are kind of thin, not quite as thin as the ink that we used there, but somewhere in between. So I'll use my smaller brush here, because we aren't going to need much of this paint. Don't need to mix it up too much. Put a little bit on my brush here. And we'll see how this works here. Yeah, that's good. Oh, already too much there. You can clean this stuff up pretty well. Yeah, that's his hand there. Alright, so I'm going to just focus on this for a second and not try to show you. Make that same mistake. But just get some of this contrast paint on where I want to darken it. And unlike the regular paint, which would just sit there, this kind of seeps around a bit and gets the right kind of effects that we're looking for. Shadows and recessed areas. That's good. If you got too much on there, even you can go back with a drier brush and seep up some of it there. It's pretty forgiving. And then we're going to do the same thing on the backpack here. Just put a little bit paint on my brush, take most of it off, and just kind of spread this around where I want it on the backpack. And it's pretty forgiving here too. So now I got a darker backpack. Alright. Next, I want to clean up this base a bit with the texture paint going around the rim. It's kind of an optional step. A lot of this is optional, of course. But I like to end up with a nice clean rim. So we're going to grab the scraper and watch out that contrast paint there. It'll take a few minutes to dry. But I can work around here. Just trying to clean up that edge there. Not make too much of a mess here. Do it over this paper towel. I normally don't work right in front of my computer. This isn't the ideal filming setup either, but quick and easy here. Alright. Not much to scrape there, just cleaned up around the edge, nice and smooth around the edge there. That's what we're looking for. And we're gonna paint the rim now for a nice clean look. I think I'm gonna do a gray look for kind of a classic look. This is Mechanicus Standard Gray. It's another Citadel Games Workshop paint, standard paint here. See how this looks. Good enough. Alright. In this case, I want a pretty thick paint. I'm going to move some to my plastic and then just work from it as a dry palette on my plastic. Take off a little bit onto my paper towel so it's not goopy, but still just plenty of paint on there. We're just going to sweep around here. Try not to get any on the top part of it, but that's about the only mistake you can make here. And we're going to do 2 coats here, so don't worry about 100% coverage. Don't get any on the shoes either. And just go around and around. ASMR for you. Looking good. Not bad. Not sure about the gray. Load a bit more paint on here. Take some of it off. And hit this again. Well, we'll give it a second here to dry here. Just so we aren't making a mess. See how our backpack is looking here too. That's much better. Much better. Alright, we'll do another coat on our rim here. Go for nice and smooth. Take some more paint. In some ways, this is like the easiest kind of painting because you're just painting the whole surface. On the other hand, it's less forgiving, but the detail, kind of works in your favor. Hides a lot of mistakes and stuff. Surface area. All your mistakes show. Alright, looking good. Pretty good. Alright, now I got a rim. Looking good. Be careful where you set that at first. Don't put it on a nice table or anything. Alright. That is about it. So we're going to spray a clear coat on there, which will protect especially that texture so it's not leaving dust and stuff when you're trying to play your games. Just cleaning up my brush here. But like I showed you how cheap brushes I use, it doesn't really matter if they get a little tore up. Alright, so we're going to use some Citadel Munitorium Varnish. That's their name for their flat matte varnish. Any flat varnish will do. Or you can clear coat it and make it shiny. I think the flat will look fine on this. But there are other finishes you can do, and there's other ways other than spraying. You can brush on a finish, but I think the spray is easier. Do it the same way we just did with the base spray paint. I'm gonna get the glove again, put the glove on, hold this out. Hold this out here. And just kind of sweep across it, spin it around a bit, get all the sides of it. Keep sweeping, keep moving, don't stop moving. And stay a good distance away from it so you don't get too much on there. You definitely don't want any drips or anything like that. You just want a nice little spray misty over it. It'll put a nice little coat on there. So I'm going to step away for a second and spray that varnish on there. Alright, we're back. We've got a finish on here. So pretty much done here. And do one last thing here, and that's the little lens flare in Gundam. They like to make them shiny, so I'll put a little bit of this metallic paint on there. This is Balthazar Gold from Citadel. But again, that's just what I had, not what I would say you have to go get to do this or anything like that. I'm going to try doing this with a toothpick because it's pretty small. Just get some of this paint on here. See if this works. Yeah, this should be good. Spread it around a little bit here. Not too much. Pretty good. All right. Now we got a lens cap on there. Maybe a silver might have been better, but that's alright. Alright, so that, I did that after the varnish because the shiny tends to get dulled by the varnish. See how that came out? Yeah, maybe a silver would have been better there. I'm not sure about that gray. Maybe a black or even a white might have been better there. I don't know. Hard to say. We'll see how they look. Maybe if I do a couple more like this, can always change your mind and put another coat and then just put varnish again over that. But overall, I think this is really good for the effort, especially. Aside from the drying time, you saw that was about an hour or so of work here. Most of it will be in this video. I'll try to cut it down a little tighter, so it's not the most boring video. But I wanted to show really just how easy that is. I know I used about like $100 worth of tools and paint there. But you know, on the other hand, I didn't really use any because I still have those tools and the paint lasts for hundreds of models like that. So it's just maybe something you want to invest in if it's not things you have already. And you just use it for years on anything similar like this. It's just a whole world of hobby. So I definitely recommend picking up the tools and paints and stuff you need to do these if you're thinking about doing it, and not to be intimidated at all. Definitely not something that needs to take weeks of time or anything like that, hundreds of paints or anything like that. You saw half a dozen paints and an hour of time, and we get something that looks pretty good. So that's it for this video. Post below if you got any questions, comments. I know this could have been better. This first video I've done kind of like this of painting, and I don't know how many more I'll do if it's really necessary. But if there's something else you want to see better or differently, let me know, and maybe I'll do another video of another one of these models that I got here. So thanks for watching, and that's it.